My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of the show KingDUMB Season 1 and Season 2. Typically, when I review TV shows, I either do the entire show at once or I break it apart season by season. But as I was writing down my notes for Season 1 and Season 2, I just realized that they look so similar that to do two separate videos, I feel like I would just be repeating a lot of the same stuff. So we're doing one video for Seasons 1 and Season 2. Beginning with Season 1. Season 1 is a really good season of television. I love the fact that this is a zombie show that takes place in the distant past. So it's not like, oh, zombies are coming at us, let's just take out our machine guns and fire away. Oh, let's just throw a grenade. No. They're typically forced to fight them because all they got is swords, and if they're lucky, they've got a gun. So that alone creates some nice tension. And I also feel like these zombies, the rules regarding them are really well established, and I love how the show constantly switches it up. So right from the start, you know the rules of the zombies, you know how they turn, you know when they come out, and just as the show progresses, your knowledge of them increases throughout, so it doesn't feel stale because it just constantly freshens things up, and I like that aspect. They also provide some really thrilling and intense moments. Episode 4 is the best episode in the entire series for me. I just thought that was a non-stop thrill ride that had me on the edge of my seat, and I just loved it. The production design in this show is great. It feels like the time period it's set in. It looks really big in scope, and it really immerses the viewer into the setting. The characters are really well defined, especially the main character. You can't help but just root for him in every single scene. He's just such a good, pure person, and there's also an underdog element to him because of other stuff that's going on, and I just loved him as a character. And this show isn't just a zombie show, there's lots of political stuff going on, and I thought all that stuff was really engaging. I thought it was really well written, and just each character and the role they played in the political aspect of it was really well established. The way that this show introduces certain elements and pays them off later is very well done. But that said, the show has a lot to it. It's only 6 episodes long, but it feels a lot longer because there's so much here. And I don't know if that's a good thing. I'll explore that complaint in a little bit when I talk about the show as a whole, but there is a lot here. Also, I want to say that Season 1 ends on a fantastic cliffhanger, and the way that Season 2 begins is awesome. Like, it is some of the best stuff in this entire show. It's brutal, it's thrilling, it's just awesome. There is some really gnarly stuff in this show. There's one moment where someone has to close a gate, and the way that he does it, I was just like, oh, that's gross, but that's awesome. Season 2 has lots of the same elements that Season 1 has. It has lots of that great zombie action and lots of that great political stuff. So they're very similar in that regard. There is one speech that the main character gives when he's just like, I'll feed the starving and I'll stop this disease. You know, it was a real badass moment. And Season 2 does end with some great action, but it also suffers from the return of the king effect. And what I mean by that is that the ending is completely dragged out. Like, we've got the final action scene, and then there's still a half hour of the season wrapping up. And I'm just like, oh, okay. It just completely kills any pacing that the show has. And it also ends on this note that did not work for me because, okay, have you guys ever seen the movie 13 Ghosts? The remake, not the 1960 original. Anyways, it's not a good movie. And the soundtrack to that movie is very rock, it's very grungy, kind of like the end of the Saw movies. It's just got that feel to it. And the last scene of Season 2 has this reveal, and then the music that plays during that moment, it just felt so out of the place. It felt like a song that would have been in 13 Ghosts, and it just took me out of the moment entirely. I will also say, okay, I won't spoil it, but I will say that when you watch Season 2 and there's a reveal of how you can stop the disease, you look back on other moments of the show, and they should have figured it out earlier. That's how I'll word it. So the show's got some great zombie action. It's thrilling, intense, and brutal. The political stuff is really well written. The main character you can't help but root for. And yet, I still did not love this show. And it took me a while to figure out why. And I think what it comes down to is this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I just think this show is really dragged out. I think this show could have easily been a movie. Now, I know they're still going to make a season 3 or whatever, but just from what I've seen so far, I think there's lots of great elements here that are dragged out to such an unbearable degree that I don't know if I ever see myself revisiting it just because of how dragged out it is. I watched the show, there's lots of great plot points and character moments, and I just feel like you could have definitely condensed this into a 2.5 hour long movie and it would have been phenomenal. It would have been probably one of the best zombie movies ever made. But because we've got a 12 episode long show, each episode being an hour long, I just can't help but think there's too much here. It feels heavily dragged out. And that really dampens the show for me. See, I like TV shows, but I think one problem TV shows have always had is that they're overlong. We don't need 23 episodes per season if there's not a need for it. We don't need episodes to be an hour long. We don't need episodes to be an hour and 10 minutes long. I feel like shows are just going on way too long now, and it's definitely damaging their quality of the show. Like I said, there's still lots to love about this show. I just think that it's way too long and it's unnecessarily dragged out. I don't think there's enough here that warrants as much time as they dedicated to this show. I know that's not a very popular opinion at all because most people absolutely love this show, but just while I was watching, I'm like, this is good, but it could be better. And I just think because I kept losing interest, I kept finding myself getting bored in moments because it did feel so dragged out. But anyways, I went on enough about that. I still like this show. I still recommend you watch it. There's still plenty it has to offer. I just think it could have been a really phenomenal movie, but we got a really good show instead, and that's not a bad thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and give KingDUMB Season 1 and Season 2 a 7 out of 10. Okay, have you watched KingDUMB? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.